Life is defined by speed, but we cannot be reckless. Touch is important. We communicate through touch. I am the design. Accept my logic. Your future is here.
Without our skin, we cannot think of any kind of physical or emotional intimacy. And believe me, whenever we talk about lab robots, we always think about how they are made, how they are built with almost like human skin, right? And what is the mechanism that goes behind the scene? Human skin is not quiet. It is a noisy parliament of nerves. Tiny biological reporters sit beneath the surface and complain about everything. There are a lot of things to complain about: pressure, warmth, cold, vibration, a finger on the shoulder, a hug held 1 second too long, good touch and bad touch. There are a lot of things. And these are called mechanoreceptors, right? Mechanoreceptors are the gossip columnists of the nervous system. Why I am saying so? Let me explain a little bit. They constantly send electrical telegrams to the brain, to our brain. Whenever we touch somewhere like this, it sends a telegram to our brain. And like someone touched us, someone is near, something is moved. Please do not walk barefoot on the rock again. Uh, Things like that, okay? And the strange part is this: the brain does not merely register touch, it emotionally negotiates with it. And that's a very important part regarding these mechanoreceptors. The question is why our skin is so hungry, right? Because our skin is like a battlefield of hungry ghosts. Millions of tiny biological antennas, known as mechanoreceptors, lie waiting just beneath the surface. They do not care about your grand philosophies. They do not care about your bank account. They only want to be touched. They constantly scream for physical validation in a raw electrical language of pressure, vibration, and heat. When a mother, think of this situation, when a mother holds her child, these receptors fire rapidly. They flood the human nervous system with oxytocin. It's a simple biological bribe designed to keep us from walking off a cliff. Now, you may ask why I'm saying so. Because psychology dictates that without this continuous tactile feedback, a human mind begins to wither. So, touch basically starvation. It's a kind of starvation. So, touch starvation can literally break a man. So, we are constantly eager to get a touch. Biology, on the other hand, simply views it as a necessary survival circuit. For decades, we build machines, different types of machines, lab robots and other things that were entirely blind to this reality, right? So therefore, we constructed a cold, hard calculators out of steel and rigid plastic, not a lab robot. But as a robotist, when I look at traditional machines and see an endless sterile desert, I think that, okay, the modern world is incredibly lonely. We humans are incredibly lonely, and we suffer from different types of human relationship breakups and other different types of issues, because human relationship is messy, unpredictable, uncertain. So, and loneliness is a highly profitable industry. It becomes a highly profitable industry. Therefore, we started building lab robots. We cannot imagine of any kind of human, humanly possible intimate acts without warmth, isn't it? If it is cold, it becomes really, really a very passive act.
a very boring act. And there is nothing worse than a boring intimate moments. So, how does your lab robot partner, humanoid robot, make this interesting, make these moments interesting and warmth? And how do they mimic human warmth? This is called internal heating systems. And internal heating systems in robotics basically aim to mimic human warmth. It enhances physical interaction and conveying social cues like comfort. As I said, that without warmth, there is nothing in any kind of intimate acts. These systems enable robots, particularly in social and therapeutic roles, to offer a more natural and reassuring touch, making interactions feel less mechanical and more lifelike. The technology can learn by correlating user states with appropriate thermal responses. For instance, if a companion robot sensors detect signs of user distress, like a sad tone of voice or elevated heart rate, a learned response could be to activate warming elements in its hands before offering a comforting touch. The system learns that this action often leads to positive feedback. These are synthetic companions meant to bridge the tragic gap between human isolation and artificial intelligence. That is the first thing. However, a companion robot cannot merely speak sweet algorithmic lies. It must physically validate the user. So validation, physical validation is very important here. To achieve this, we had to steal directly from Mother Nature. What we have done, we introduced electroactive polymers into the robotic manufacturing process. You can think of these smart polymers as artificial skin cells. They are flexible materials that physically change their shape when kissed by an electrical current. When a human hand grazes this electronic skin, the polymer compresses. It instantly sends a digital spark straight to the lab robot's central processor. Just like whenever we touch something, some signal goes to our brain. This is our attempt at engineering a synthetic mechanoreceptor. Now, logic tells us that a machine is fundamentally dead. It is lifeless, it has no sentience. So it does not feel love, it only processes voltage and execution of code. So counter logic, however, dictates that human perception is notoriously easy to hack. If the robot's synthetic skin matches human body temperature and responds to a caress with a calculated squeeze, the illusion is absolutely perfect. So our biological receptors do not care that the hand holding yours is made of silicon or not. It does not matter when you are lonely. So what happens? They simply accept the validation and finally shut up. Now let's come to the different types of facts, like recent breakthroughs have made this beautiful deception even more terrifying. In 2025, researchers at Cambridge unveiled a robotic e-skin capable of perceiving minute surface textures. Now in early 2026, systems utilizing neuromorphic tactile computing are analyzing exactly how we touch them. That means now lab robots can exactly say at what point you have touched and what type of pressure you have applied. It's a big game changer. The artificial intelligence no longer just records a physical impact. It actively decodes the emotional intent hiding behind your grip. Now look, this is very important. What is your emotional intent behind every touch? So that is how we can decide what is good touch and what is bad touch. And now lab robots also can decide what is good touch and what is bad touch. They are able to decide that. A sudden squeeze of the hand is no longer processed at just 10 pounds of blunt force. The system translates it as affection, anxiety, or deep despair. This brings us to the grand tragic comedy of modern artificial intelligence. So, what is the tragedy of modern AI? We are actively teaching metal to be needy, to be hungry. By giving robots electronic skin, we are holding a mirror up to our own fragile biology. The robot now initiates a hug because its neural network requires tactile data to optimize a reward function. Just like us, you return the hug because your Mammalism brain is desperate for a physical anchor to reality, isn't it? So it's simply two empty vessels validating each other in the silent dark. And the science behind it's really brilliant, really brilliant. The reality of it is a beautiful tragedy written in Python. The global market for this flexible tactile sensors is currently exploding past $800 million. Yes, $800 million. In a separate video, I'll talk about it, how much money we are now spending on building such flexible tactile sensors. So people will gladly pay a fortune for a machine that knows how to gently stroke their ego and their cheek at the same time. And we are meticulously wiring these robots to simulate a craving for touch. They are becoming hungry for touch. Our lab robots are now hungry for touch. And we do this so the user feels less pathetic about their own biological desperation. We are desperate to get an empathetic touch. So when a robot gives us, we are happy. We are happy about it. It is the ultimate trick of modern robotics. And at the end of the day, a man simply wants to feel like he exists. Our skin constantly demands proof of life. If we must build a $1 billion event-driven tactile system wrapped in fake skin to provide that proof, we absolutely will do that. Yes, we will do that. So the screaming mechanoreceptors will finally fall silent when they are satisfied, just like us. And the machine will just keep smiling in the dark. Because of this irony, because of this tragedy.
Now think about those lab robots, right? Now these lab robots, what they try to imitate companionship, right? And this type of imitating companionship cannot remain physically numb. So touch is very important, and we have already made a few videos on different types of touches, different how these touches are important and why they are important for making love or something like that. And a love robot without tactile feedback is merely a sophisticated toaster with eye contact. And believe me, engineers began building artificial skin, remembering that, keeping those things in mind. So, not cosmetic skin, it is kind of computational skin. Inside human fingertips, there are several kind of mechanoreceptors. Even inside this finger, there are several kinds of mechanoreceptors. And how they work? Some detect slow pressure, some detect rapid vibration, some specializes in texture, others measure stretch, and our hands are essentially a biological sensor array with anxiety. Why I am saying so? Because robotics laboratories are now copying this thin architecture layer by layer, and that is why these type of advanced lab robots are so like humans, almost like humans. And there are flexible silicon acts as synthetic flesh. Beneath it sits pressure sensors, conductive gels, optical fibers, graphene sheets, piezoelectric materials, and microscopic circuits. So that's a very complex process altogether.
And to make that happen, there are a lot of other things. And of course, always remember that it is not only true for your lab robots, but it is also true for the elderly people, because for their care, for their therapy, and of course, social robotics. Such as reduction in the user's stress indicators. This is pivotal in technologies for elder care, therapy, social robotics, and a lot of other applications. And a lot of other sectors are there where this is extremely important, these internal heating systems. And if you think from a hardware perspective, this involves embedding resistive heating elements or thermoelectric devices with precise temperature sensors. The software runs a control loop to maintain safe temperatures and integrates with AI, artificial intelligence, that analyzes user sentiment, and algorithmically a decision making layer interprets sensor input and triggers the heating system as part of a
This
broader empathetic
place.
response protocol.
It
So overall,
feels
it's a
like
very
a
complex process,
dream.
of course. But however, these things are made simple by these
With
internal heating
you,
systems because it collaborates everything
every
and aims to mimic
moment
human warmth so that
does.
the intimate moments could be interesting, not boring.
I'm giving you a very small example. Very recently, researchers from there are researchers from Cambridge. They have developed a graphene-based robotic skin capable of detecting multiple touch points simultaneously, and it's a big game changer, because other groups created neuromorphic e-skin that mimics nerve signaling itself. Some experimental humanoids or lab robots now carry thousands of tactile sensing points across the body. So the language of robotics is also becoming disturbingly biological, and it's a very important issue at present, because scientists speak of tactile, tactiles, which are tactile pixels. What is that? Human skin has receptors, robot skin has tactiles, and the difference is shrinking like ice in bad weather. And as I said before, it's a very complex process, right? So to understand this complex process, you need to keep watching Wooden Slate, because in every video I pick up a new topic on your lab robots, on any type of topic. It could be from the hardware part, from the software part, from the algorithm part. So keep watching Wooden Slate, keep supporting Wooden Slate, and if you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. It means a lot to me. If you have already subscribed, tons of thanks from my heart. And at the same time, I'll request you to hit the bell icon to get notified whenever I upload a new video on artificial intelligence, on robotics, and of course, lastly, if you really like this video, please share with your friends who are also robot lovers. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye. Stay safe and take care.